Hello, I'm your grandmother, Clara. Part of you comes from me. I have always cared about you, and I want you to know more about me. I'm going to share with you a little about my life story. I hope you enjoy it. I know we will meet again someday. My full name is Clara Schroeder Johnson. I was born in Ohio in 1895. This is the story of my life. In 1895, Fremont, Ohio was just a small town. Most families worked with their hands, and people knew one another. Life followed the seasons, and days were determined by the work that needed doing. Children were expected to help, and families stayed close. That was the world I was born into. My father died when I was 4 years old. My older brothers, Louis and Lawrence, were 7 and 6, and my baby brother, Lester, was 1. After that, our mother carried the weight of everything. We learned early to be careful, to be helpful, and not to expect much. After my father died, our lives became smaller and more careful. My mother kept us together, and we did what was needed. There was no choice but to go on. This photograph was taken when I was 17. I am dressed the way young women were expected to dress then. Covered, proper, and ready to be taken seriously. It was my favorite dress. It was light, with lace trimming, a belted waist, and a full skirt. Modest, but carefully chosen. I gave this photograph to my brothers, so they would always remember me. Both of my parents were born in Germany, and we spoke mostly German at home. Many of the customs they brought with them were still part of our daily life. As a young woman, my world began to widen. Life was still shaped by family and expectations, but there were moments of gathering and enjoyment. People visited one another often. Music was played in homes. We played the piano, and we sang all the old German folk songs. It was a joy just getting together with our families. There was dancing when there was occasion for it, and we fully enjoyed it. But young people were watched closely. We were expected to behave with purpose and to think carefully about the lives we would choose. I cannot say now exactly why I left Ohio and went west to Arizona. Many decisions were made that way then, without knowing the full reason, only knowing it was time to move. When I left Ohio, I did not know when I would see my family again. Distance carried real weight then. I traveled from Ohio to Arizona by train, just as everyone did in those days. When I first met Charles, I was surprised to learn that he had been born in Mexico. The fact is, I did not know much about Mormons then, much less that they had colonies in Mexico of all places. This photograph is Charles with his older brother Sixtus. That's Charles on the right. A right handsome chap, I might say. His family and friends called them by their middle names, Hilton and Harlem. But by the time I knew Charles, he had already been living in Arizona for some years. We were married on Valentine's Day in 1919. I was 23 years old. That was considered old to be married in those days. My husband and I built our early life in Arizona. We lived where there was work, in places like Hayden and Mammoth, mining towns where life followed the rhythm of the mines. Later, we lived in Gilbert and Mesa. We became parents early. Some of our children lived only a short time. A mother does not forget. In 1924, when I was 29 years old, I was baptized and confirmed a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was a choice I made as an adult, thoughtfully and deliberately. I was thrilled to learn the doctrine that infant children have no sin and do not require baptism. What a relief that was to my soul. In 1929, my husband and I were finally able to go to the Mesa, Arizona temple, where we received our endowments and were sealed to one another and to all of our children, those already born and those yet to be born. It was a glorious day. I did not understand everything at once. What I began at my baptism grew over time. I could not have known then how fully my covenants would shape my life. Only now, looking back, can I see who I became by striving to keep the commandments. I was never perfect. In 1943 or thereabouts, we moved to Washington, D.C. In 1945, my husband passed away. He was only 57 years old, and it was quite a shock. I found myself walking a path my own mother had walked years before. Now, I knew her in a different way. My youngest son, Charles, was only 12 years old when his father died. I worried about him especially. I wondered who would be his example, who he would look to, and how he would learn what it meant to be a good man. I was grateful for the good influence that my daughter Mary and her husband Roy were for him during those important years. Charles looked up to Roy. He admired him deeply. Roy was serving as a B-29 pilot in the Air Force during the war. This photograph was taken when Roy had leave and came for a visit. Seeing them together gave me comfort. Faith sustained me in those years. I did what my mother had done. I went on, and I did the best I knew how. You know something now of my life. I tried to live my life with purpose. I loved my life. I did not always know what would come next, but I knew why I was trying. I am not finished living. I am just living on the other side of the veil. I look forward to the resurrection more than I can put into words. I look forward to being together again, whole, restored, and able to know one another, as we truly are. That day will be glorious. I wait for it with hope and full confidence. Until then, life continues, on both sides. There were times in my mortal life when continuing felt difficult, but I learned that going on did not always mean being strong. Sometimes it only meant not stopping. If there are days for you now, when the way forward feels unclear, keep going. Do not give up. You come from lives that endured, and you carry that same strength with you. In the words of one of my favorite hymns, God be with you, till we meet again.